So Carleen Gidget, it does not appear we have a moderator, so if you'd like to start whenever.
Oh, okay. Just start our presentation?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, great. Well, hi, I'm Carly Mader, and I'm going to start off the presentation. This is the title of our talk today is Navigating Social Security and Special Needs Trusts. So I'm going to start, and then my partner in the firm, Gidget, Tyler, who's sitting next to me, she will kind of come in halfway through. I'm going to go over more of special needs trusts and special needs planning, and she'll talk about Social Security benefits and how to kind of work that system. So just really quick about me, I have been a licensed attorney for 11 years. And in 2015, Gidget and I opened our own law practice. Gidget has always helped disabled individuals get on Social Security. And so she's very familiar with that process. I actually started doing business transactions and then got into estate planning. Estate planning very quickly led to a lot of our clients, our disabled clients, needing special needs consulting. Special needs is definitely a term of art used still in the legal field. And so I, really wanted to get involved with that, didn't know how. And then I had a child, Kennedy, diagnosed with Duke 15q. So I am a fellow special needs mom, parent, and Duke 15q mom. Kennedy is now 4. We got the diagnosis in 2017 when she was around, 6-7 months old. And then, for the next 2 years, it was kind of like, where do we go from here? But I knew that I really wanted to start looking into special needs planning for our family and also helping others with that. So that's how I've started this in our practice, and I wanted to share kind of what I've come across and good tips for you all. Especially since I walk the walk, right? I don't just talk the talk. I'm right now raising a child with special needs. So what are the benefits of special needs planning? I think first and foremost, it's peace of mind. You are the best caregiver for your child right now, but you won't be around forever. And if your child outlives you, which we all want, you want to be able to select the best team in order to, provide for your child's lifetime support and care. And you really need to put in, you need to do a lot of planning in order to do that and to make sure that it's all in place if really if anything were to happen. And this also protects the child, and protects the child from maintaining any type of public benefits they're receiving, and we'll go into that more. But for example, if you qualify for Medicaid or SSI, and then when your child is 18 and they qualify, you want to protect those benefits, and there are a lot of ways to do that. And you really just need to know how the system works. So does my child need or require special need planning? The individuals that need this are disabled individuals. So, those, are kind of the definition of yes, you do. And if they are eligible for some needs-based programs, then you need some special needs trust planning. And, we'll get into more of that. So, if your child is receiving now or may receive and likely will receive at 18 SSI or Medicaid, then it's really important to kind of start the process now and start setting up things that can protect your child's money, other assets, from not disrupting any type of benefits that they are receiving from the government. So for the majority of the children here, because I know Kennedy's, I know her diagnosis, and Kennedy is IDIC Duke 15q. So she will likely live with us for the rest of her life and need care for the rest of her life. And if you're in a similar boat, then yes, the answer is yes. We should all start some type of special needs planning now. And what I want to really focus on for this talk is special needs trusts, They are a great planning option, and it helps protect what Gidget will talk about, which is SSI benefits and Medicaid. Another term for special needs trust is supplemental needs trust. They literally are used interchangeably. So what is a trust? Well, that's a Black's Law dictionary definition, and it can kind of be confusing. So don't Google trust because it might overwhelm you. Really, according to me, it's just a great legal tool to create a separate entity or a separate person that allows the creators of the trust to manage money and manage the property for the benefit of, in this case, your special needs child. It's very easy to create in most states. We are in Houston, Texas right now, and I know all of you present are right now in the state of Colorado, but we have people tuning in from all over. It does vary state by state as far as what's required, but for the most part, it's pretty simple. It's pretty easy to create it. And it's all about kind of the name. It's naming the bank account that you're holding funds in the trust's name. And it's titling assets in the name of the trust. Because remember, we don't want any of the money or the assets in the name of your child, because that might kick that child off of any benefits that they're receiving. A lot of these benefits that Gidget will go over are need-based programs that all come down to income limits. So we don't want any money that anyone leaves your child to be in your child's name if they need to qualify for those benefits. But don't let attorneys scare you. Even though I'm an attorney, there are a lot of attorneys out there that may scare you. May charge you a lot of money to set up this trust, make it sound like it's this very overwhelming and important thing that takes a lot of time and planning. It does take an attorney to do it, so don't get me wrong there. But if you have a good attorney, especially an attorney that understands special needs children, then it's relatively a simple process. And I hope you can find a good one. I had them upload on the app different attorneys that I know that do special needs planning and consulting and trusts by state. So definitely look into those attorneys that I've listed. If you ever have any questions, we were both providing our emails. So you can always email me. So there are some words that you will hear when you set up a trust. These three: grantor, trustee, beneficiary. Pretty simple. A grantor is just the person that makes the trust. It creates the trust. And for special needs trust, they're also the person that funds the trust, puts money in a bank account. It could be as simple as that. You'll also heard the term settlor or trustor. All of those just mean the person that makes the trust. The trustee is the person that manages the money or manages the property that's in the trust name. That trustee should be someone you trust. It's literally in the name. It can be a relative. It can be you before you pass. It can be an organization. There's nonprofit organizations that we'll get into. But that trustee is held to a very high standard. They need to do what's best for the beneficiary, what's best for your child, which is the next word. Beneficiary is the person that benefits from the trust, which would be your special needs child. And that money or those accounts and that property is protected, again, for the most part for special needs trust purposes, so that your child does not get counted against the income level that Gidget will go over for SSI and Medicaid. So this is just a good reference. I will talk about all these in a second, but if you ever go back to these slides, which we will upload to the app, then this kind of breaks it down of the two important trusts that I'm going to talk about today, which is a third-party trust and a first-party trust. And either of them can be a pooled trust, which I will go over. So a third-party special needs trust. This is a trust that the child receiving, SSI or Medicaid will be the beneficiary of this trust, as I mentioned in the previous slide. And the main requirements of a third-party special needs trust is that the beneficiary, your special needs child, did not create the trust and did not use their funds to create the trust. So, if you're setting it up now when your child's young or less than 18, or even if you're setting it up when your child's over the age of 18, just make sure that you as the parent or a grandparent is the grantor of the trust and you're funding the trust. And funding just means opening can be as simple as opening up a bank account and putting money into that bank account that's in the trust's name. You also want to make sure that the beneficiary is not the trustee. So the beneficiary, your special needs child, cannot manage any of the property, which most people tuning into this webinar, the beneficiary couldn't manage this anyway. So you've already met that standard. And then another important aspect of a third-party special needs trust, in order to qualify as such, is the trustee has to have sufficient discretion for all of the distributions to benefit the beneficiary. And we'll go over that in a little bit. So additional requirements of a third-party special needs trust is that the beneficiary, the special needs child, cannot have any authority to terminate the trust or revoke it. Remember, we want this to look like a completely separate entity. So really, your child has zero control, which again, pretty easy standard to make. And then let me go to, so another great benefit of a third-party special needs trust is that it does not require any payback to Medicaid. So that is very different from a first-party special needs trust that I'll go over in a second. A third-party special needs trust has a lot of discretion for the parent setting it up. It can be revocable during the parent's lifetime. So if you set it up now, just by going to an attorney and getting a trust agreement, then it can be revocable until you're passing, and you can also be the trustee. And what's great about that is any relative or friend, anyone really, even you, can continue contributing to that trust. Meaning you can set aside money. I mean, people can, gift your child money, and you can put it in the trust to hold it. And then once your child turns 18, and they do qualify for SSI, then that money is not counted against that child. It is protected in this third-party special needs trust. There's a lot more flexibility too with a third-party special needs trust, because you have a lot more flexibility as far as leaving the assets or the money in the trust to others upon the death of your special needs child. So it doesn't have to go back to Medicaid and repay Medicaid back, which this other one will, that I'll discuss. This one can be, this one can be willed or, sent to other siblings. Upon your special needs child's passing, it can be sent to other relatives. So it really is a great thing to do right now, but you can also create this through a will and through, good estate planning. So this just goes through kind of funding and management of the third-party special needs trust, which I've already touched on, but just know that the parent or anyone can leave an unlimited amount of money to the special needs trust. So that's a little different than another account I will discuss later, which is the ABLE account. Be careful about the special needs trust owning a home, because once the child does qualify for SSI, there's some pretty strict rules as far as shelter and food. But anything else, the third-party special needs trust can supplement, which is great. I mean, it literally is paying for supplemental needs for the child. And that can be anything from, additional medical care that Medicaid is not providing. It can be vacations, going to Disney World. It can pay for a pet. As long as you're careful about not giving the money straight to the child, the special needs trust or the trustee of the special needs trust would need to pay for those services or for those goods if it's a pet or if it's some type of medical equipment. So really, record keeping is important, for any trustee that you appoint as the special needs trust kind of manager. Also, as far as disbursements, you do want to check with your public benefit program. So SSI, they have a lot of good information on their site, but Medicaid is different in every single state. So definitely check with the specific Medicaid program that your child qualifies for according to your state. Picking a trustee, again, it can be someone you trust, it can be a relative. There are also organizations that serve, and that goes into the pooled third-party special needs trust, where a nonprofit serves as the trustee, manages the funds, invests the funds, pooled with others, with other investments, and they're professionals, right? And so they do really good record keeping, and it kind of alleviates maybe some of the concern about, oh, is this trustee, this relative of mine, the best person to pick? So that's always an option. So the next type of special needs trust is called a first party special needs trust. This is very different in that it is funded with the disabled individual's own funds that are placed into the trust. So this is typically used when, for example, your special needs child may get a personal injury award and it has to go to their name. Well, you really don't want them to have it in their name because then it'll kick them off of public benefits. So it is placed into a trust, and it's called a first party special needs trust. And there's two types. This is also if someone someone lists your child like a grandparent. If a grandparent of a child lists them in their will and the child inherits money outright in their name, then you would need to put that money in a special needs trust. Do not turn around and give it away. Gidget will touch on that. That is a big no-no. You'll still get kicked off of benefits. So definitely contact an attorney. If you need a first party special needs trust because some money is going into your child's name personally, and because there hasn't been set up a third party special needs trust, then definitely call an attorney and get that done. This also is, oh no, we never did anything. We need a special needs trust now because someone just left our child money through a will and we didn't have anything in place. So we need to just put it in the first party special needs trust. This one is the payback special needs trust. Those sections are just a statutory reference. But the requirements of the first party special needs trust is that it must be irrevocable. That just means that once it's funded with your child's funds, it can't be terminated or revoked. It goes on forever. And it is for the sole benefit of the person with the disability, and that person has to be under the age of 65. It also, a big difference between this and a third party special needs trust is that the trustee must repay Medicaid for all the benefits received during the beneficiary's lifetime if there's remaining funds in the trust upon the beneficiary's death. So it is a payback. You can't use those funds and have that child will it, or have those funds through the trust agreement go to a sibling or another relative. So that's a big difference between a third party and a first party. This first party special needs trust can also be pooled, which is managed and established by a nonprofit association. So, and there are a lot of them out there. There's national ones, but there's also ones in different states. So I know in Texas, there's the ARC, which is a big one people use here, and a lot of people love it and say good things about it. So definitely look into pooled special needs trust if you're going that route as far as the trustee, because remember, a pooled special needs trust can be third party and first party. And if you are going that route and want a nonprofit to be your trustee, then definitely look into some of those in your respective states. The pooled resources, as I mentioned, are invested and managed together. So it does save you on some potential fees and management costs. versus going with like a corporate trustee if you were doing that. But the beneficiary does have its own separate account, and the funds are still used for the benefit of your child. And again, even with the other one, first party, even if it's pooled, it's still the nonprofit will pay back the state first. So this just compares the first party trusts as far as the pooled and the payback. The pooled one, you just have the nonprofit organization, so you don't really know the person very well as far as the trustee. And then the other one, you know the trustee. So y'all can look at just kind of the different pros and cons on that, on your own. The next option that is, can be less expensive, or probably is less expensive than setting up special needs trusts, is an ABLE account. And many of you have probably heard of an ABLE account. If not, definitely start researching it and Google it. It's different in every state. What's great about it is that you can pick an ABLE account in any state you want. So even if you live in Colorado, if you live in California and they don't have good ABLE accounts, you can choose Texas's ABLE account. Or I've heard Ohio has a really good ABLE account program. But it's one account per disabled person. You have to have that, disabled person become disabled before the age of 26. So for the majority of, again, the people tuning in, we've already met that because our children, for the most part, are considered disabled. You have an annual contribution limit. So this is a big difference between a special needs trust. You can only contribute $15,000 a year. For some people, that's completely fine. But think of this more as a savings account. You put into account, there are some organizations and some programs through ABLE accounts that will invest for you, like Texas does have that, but some don't, and it's just a savings account. But you can contribute up to $15,000 a year. It's just a great thing to start saving for your child and your child's name. And as long as you only pay for qualified disability expenses, it's a definition, transportation, education, employment. I mean, it's a really long list of what you can use those funds for. You can even use those funds to hire an attorney in order to do a special needs trust. So this is a great first option to do, to start saving and to have, relatives help put money in this account so that you can then eventually pay for special needs trust planning and overall estate planning. Another great thing about the ABLE account is you can have debit cards. You have to be careful about that. Check, because the fees vary in different states. But again, really good option. Definitely look into it in your state. Okay, so I am going to turn it over now to Gidget. We're probably not going to pause for questions yet. So definitely hold your questions about special needs trust till the end, because I think once you hear about the public benefits and the different programs, it'll all kind of make a little bit more sense. And then we can open it up for questions at the end. But thank you so much for listening to my spiel. And I'm so glad I got to also share pictures of our Kennedy. So Gidget.
Hi again, my name is Gidget, and I've been practicing Social Security Disability and SSI law for about a little over 11 years at this point. So this first slide is just going over the types of programs that exist. The needs-based public benefits are going to be SSI and Medicaid. There's also expanded Medicaid programs, or you'll hear the word Medicaid buy-in programs. Entitlement public benefits, that's going to be Social Security Disability, which is what that SSDI stands for, and Medicare. And then there are some other benefit programs out there, Section 8 and veterans benefits. We're not going to discuss those today, but just know those are out there and it's something you can look into in your individual states. All right, so let's start with SSI. So first of all, what is it? SSI stands for Supplemental Security Income. So it's to supplement income for people who are disabled, blind, or 65 and older. And it's a cash monthly benefit you get. So right now it's $794 for an individual. We do get little increases each year. They call them cost of living adjustments. Now, some states will give an extra supplement. So for example, California, if you live there, you'll get an additional 160.72. Here in Texas, we don't do that. So my clients can only get up to the 794. And again, that is the maximum payment. A lot of people, if they didn't do the correct planning, aren't getting that amount. And we're going to go over that a little bit. So the next few slides are going to discuss how you qualify for SSI. There's first one is just some preliminary type issues. So you have to be a citizen or a lawful resident. You can't be a fugitive felon. You can't be in prison or violating parole. You also have to be in the United States for all the time. If you're gone for more than a month, they will kick you off. Or if you've been gone longer than a month, you won't be able to qualify when you first apply. So if you have family that lives in a different country, just be aware, you know, if you're going to go have medical treatment somewhere else, that's something that could affect you or your child. Also, if there's a possibility that the disabled person qualifies for Social Security disability, they must apply for that first before applying for SSI. Since this is the needs-based program, you have to exhaust all your other options. And if you're not a citizen or a lawful resident, if you're an alien, there's only very few categories that would be able to apply for SSI. All right, so when you talk about SSI, there's 3 additional things we're going to look at. First, you have to meet their definition of disabled, which we'll go over. And if you pass that, then they'll look at and see if you pass their resource test. And then if you pass that, then they look at your income to decide how much benefit you actually can get. So there's 3 different tests we're going to go through. The first one is proving you're disabled. These are long definitions. I'm just going to kind of summarize them. The first one is what disability means for an adult. So 18 and up, essentially you have to prove they're not capable of working on a full-time basis. And for a disabled child, you have to prove that they have severe functional limitations, either mentally or physically because of their medical condition. A lot of times this is what people have to fight for depending on how disabled. If you have like a borderline high functioning special needs child, it may be a little bit more difficult. Okay, so let's say, yes, Social Security comes and says, we agree your child is disabled. Now let's look at your resources. So for an individual, the limit is $2,000. If you're married, you get $3,000 as your limit. And how they do this is month by month. So even once your child is on benefits, they're still going to look at this, and it's a snapshot, meaning the first day of the month, they take a picture, and that determines if you're eligible for the entire month. So let's say you're on benefits and August 1st, your child has $2,030 in their account. And the next day, though, they spend $1,000 of that on bills. It doesn't matter, because when they took the picture, the child was over the limit, and so therefore they will be ineligible for the entire month. Okay, so good news, there are some assets that are exempt that don't count towards that $2,000 limit. The first one is, your principal residence. So they have to live in the home. And the reason why I say that is I've had clients where this disabled person was living on their own with a caretaker. Something happens to the caretaker and they move in with their parents. So they only have one home, but they're not living in it. That is no longer an exempt asset. So they have to be living in the house for it to be exempt. They also get one exempt automobile. And if it's like a family dynamic, each adult gets an automobile. Some other exempt assets would be the household items, personal effects, musical instruments, burial insurance, irrevocable burial trust, burial plots, life insurance. Now, life insurance, if it's a whole life policy, it needs to be $1,500 or less. Term can be as much as you want because there's no money you can take out from that. And then, of course, anything that's in the trust that Carly discussed earlier. All right, so let's say you met the first 2 tests, then it comes down to income. And so remember in the beginning, I said that the numbers that I listed were the maximum amount you could get. So they're going to go through 4 types of income to deduct anything that you're receiving. So the first kind of income we're going to go over is unearned income. That would be things like gifts, payments, alimony. I see this a lot with child support. So let's say you have an 18-year-old who's disabled. And so now, even though they're 18, they're still getting child support from a divorced spouse. That money would be unearned income. And so what they do is you get the first $20 for free, but then after that, dollar for dollar, they're going to reduce the SSI benefit by that amount. So for example, if they get $200 a month in child support, $180 would be deducted from that maximum amount that we discussed in the beginning. Then the second kind of income they're going to look at is earned income. That's going to be, employment, wages, things where you're doing something to earn the money. This one they're a little bit more flexible with. So the first $65 are free, and then they divide it in half. So you would take the $200, let's say if they had that in self-employment, they would give you the first $65 for free, and then you divide it in half. And so I think it's like $67 or in some cents that would be reduced from the SSI benefit. Then the other two, and these are the two that normally really get people. So in-kind support and maintenance is actual receipt of food, clothing, or shelter. What this really means is if you have an adult child living with you who's disabled and you're not making them pay rent, they're going to reduce that benefit. And they can reduce it up to a third of the amount. So right now that'd be $264.66 a month. They would reduce the SSI benefit by if your child is not paying rent. So what I always recommend my clients to do is to do a lease agreement. And you could do it for $250, $300, whatever you think, but actually write it all out and saying that this is how much, my child is paying me every month in rent. And you need to make sure they're actually paying it. So every month, write, a check for the rent. Now, what you do with the money when you receive it is up to you. So if you're taking that money and then taking your child out to eat, whatever, but you need to make sure that they're paying the rent, or else that's a pretty big reduction. A third to lose. The other big one is deemed income. And we're going to go over that a little bit more in the next slide, but this is a big one that stops most children from being able to get SSI benefits until they're 18. So what deeming means is if someone is responsible for taking care of someone, their income is deemed to them. So for minor children, any parents, including step parents who live in the home, all of their income and assets count towards the child. So even if you have a step parent who's not maybe contributing to the child, it does not matter. Their income is automatically deemed to the child. Another big one is if someone's married, the spouse's income and assets are always given to the other spouse. So that's why I said most of the time, a child will not receive SSI until they turn 18. Okay, so what happens if you go through all of this and you finally get your child on, and then they get, the $20,000 from his mother or whoever? The big thing is, which I know Carly touched on this, don't just turn around and give it away. Social Security will find out. They get access to the bank accounts. They follow IRS and see what all's filed. And what they will do is they can cut off the benefit for up to 36 months if you do that. So the big thing is, if you're over the asset limit, either before or during while you're getting benefits, contact an attorney, because you can see it can have really bad consequences if you gift it away. That does not solve the problem. Another way I've seen this happen is if someone owns, let's say, that extra home that I was saying, like, let's say the person moves in with you, so they are no longer living in the home. You can't just sell the home for $10 and say, no, look, we sold it. They will actually look at the transaction. They'll want the contract, and anything that you sold it under fair market value will be considered giving it away, gifting it away. So you'll have the same consequence. Okay. So when I'm talking about Medicaid on this slide, I'm talking about the Medicaid you get when you qualify for SSI. So SSI and Medicaid run hand in hand. There's 3 different categories of states on how they do it. So the easiest states are the 1634 states. And what these are is, as long as someone is receiving even $1 of SSI, they automatically get Medicaid. So they don't have to put in an extra application. There's no extra requirements. It's just automatic. SSI criteria states everyone who gets SSI receives Medicaid, but they make you go and do a separate application for Medicaid. So it's essentially just a second step. And then the last one, the 209B states, for them, SSI does not automatically mean Medicaid. And so some of those states will have even more restrictions for Medicaid than they do for SSI. So it is a completely separate process. And this is just for your benefit. You can look at this and see which state you are to see, what requirements you may have. Okay, so now let's turn to Social Security disability insurance. And what that is, it's a disability program, but it's not based on income or assets. It's based on your work history. So you could be a billionaire, but if you've worked long enough and you're disabled, you can apply for this program. So the basic criteria is if you're 31 and up, you're going to need 40 work credits, 20 of those being in the last 10 years. If you're under 31, you need less credits. And so some very young people will qualify. And how you earn credits is through working. You can get 4 credits a year. And this amount always, kind of goes up and down. But right now it's $1,470 of wages. You get 1 credit. So as you're paying into the system, that's how you qualify for this. Now, a big difference with this is when you get Social Security disability, you get Medicare instead of Medicaid. You do not have to apply for it. It is automatic, but there's a waiting period. So you don't get Medicare until you've been entitled to Social Security disability for 2 years. Now, there is a way that someone can get Social Security disability without working, and that's called an adult disabled child benefit. And what that is the person has to be 18 years or older. We have to be able to prove they are disabled before the age of 22. And you need one parent that either receives Social Security benefits or has passed away. And then the child can actually draw off of that person who's receiving the benefits or who has passed away. They can take off of their Social Security. So it's a great program. It has a weird restriction. There's still no income or assets, but the person cannot be married. So the only way an adult disabled child can receive this benefit and be married is if they're actually married to another adult disabled child. Also, they could not have worked more than 3 months. I mean, this would be a situation where they haven't really worked. Okay, and just kind of some basic Medicare information. There are the 3 parts. Part A is hospital insurance. So if you go to the ER or inpatient. Part B is your normal medical insurance, like when you go to the doctor, like your primary care. And then Part D is the prescription drugs. Okay, so that's the programs. Let's talk about how you actually apply for these programs. So they're almost identical the way the process works. The only difference is the actual application itself. So SSI is a paper application. It has not been updated to be electronic, and Social Security does not go make these applications easy for people to get. So you'll have to either call Social Security and set up an appointment and do it with them, or you could contact an attorney. We have the applications and we could complete them and submit them for you. Social Security disability can actually be done online. So you'll see that I have it there, the ssa.gov. So you can still, if you don't feel comfortable doing that, you could still contact your local Social Security office and they will help you through it. Or of course you could hire an attorney. And when you're talking about hiring an attorney for this process, it is important to know that Social Security attorneys work only on contingency fee, meaning none of us charge unless we get someone on benefits, and we're regulated by Social Security. So don't be scared to call an attorney and talk to them about this, because it shouldn't cost you anything at all upfront. All right, so let's say you put in the application. I would say it's normally about a 5-month process before you get your first decision back. During that time period, they will have requested medical records. They will send additional forms they want completed, and they may actually send your child for a mental or physical exam or both. If they were to be denied, you would definitely want to appeal. You have 60 days, and that's called a reconsideration. About 63% of applications are denied, and they'll have to go through that process. If you were denied again, then you would go see the judge, and you'll see there I have 87% of reconsiderations are denied. And then if you were denied at the hearing, you'd want to go to the appeals council. And if you were denied again, you can actually file a lawsuit against Social Security. I don't expect the majority for y'all to have to go through this long process, but I want you to understand that if you do fall into these statistics where you're being denied, don't get discouraged. Keep fighting, because they deny really good cases sometimes, and you should contact an attorney and have them and fight it for you.
Okay, so putting it all together. First of all, what are next steps? Because I know sometimes this can feel overwhelming. Just so you all know, Gidget and I have been doing this for a long time. We research it constantly. We still have to look things up. So don't feel like, oh my gosh, I can't get a grasp on this, because even attorneys have to constantly research these laws. They're ever changing, and different situations apply to different family members and different people. So, our biggest thing is just don't wait. Look into doing this now. If you have questions, ask us. And as Gidget mentioned, hiring an attorney, a Social Security attorney, if your child is, 18 or will soon be, or an adult now, and you're having problems with that, contact us. It costs you nothing to talk to Gidget. But in general, we would say that in order to hire an attorney to create the third party special need trust, or even a first party special need trust, if you need it, is between $1,000 and $5,000. Again, it all depends on what all you're asking to be created. But just know that families and friends do want to help. And that there's a good way to have them help is to maybe set up an Able account or even a GoFundMe for now. So definitely try to start saving in order for you to start planning. Another good thing you can do, and that's a little less expensive, is to create a will. You can create the third party special needs trust within the will. So sometimes that's a less expensive option in order to get that supplemental needs trust created. It won't be available now for you to start contributing funds, but it is available upon the parent or the caregiver's death. So it will still go to your child and protect your child from losing any public benefits. Able account is a good option too. And definitely know that if you don't plan anything, you have a first party special need trust as a backup plan. Okay, now we have about 15 minutes. So we want to go through some hypos. And this might help you all. It kind of puts it into a more real life perspective. So if you fall into one of these family categories, then this might help. So we're just going to go over those now.
Okay, so hypothetical one, the Smith family. So the Smith family is a single mom, and she can only work part-time because she needs to be at home to take care of her disabled minor child. The family does not have any assets outside of their home or one vehicle. So what's the best plan for the Smith family? So since the family is under the income and asset limits, they should go ahead and apply for childhood SSI benefits. Also, Ms. Smith should be prepared that when the child turns 18, Social Security relooks to determine if the child is disabled under the adult rules. Remember, there's two definitions. So just if you have a child on SSI, you're going to just be prepared for that, because sometimes it really upsets people when it happens because they weren't planning for it. So when should they contact an attorney? I would say if the child's application is denied, or if at 18 Social Security finds that the child is no longer disabled. And that's a big one, because if you get that letter, you only have 10 days to appeal to say, I want to keep the benefits going while I fight this. And for a lot of people, that's major, because if you lose SSI, you're losing Medicaid too. So definitely call someone right away if that happens. And then also, if there's someone else who's wanting to gift or give something to the child, you'd want to call to do that, those trusts that Carly talked about. Okay, hypothetical 2, the Lopez family. So in this situation, both parents work full time. They've built up healthy retirement and savings accounts, and they have a disabled minor child. What should they do? Well, the child will not qualify for SSI, because remember, all that income and assets is going to be deemed to the child. But when the child turns 18, they should definitely apply for SSI. They should also look into Medicaid waiver or buy-in programs, so that maybe they can get some help with medical care until then. And as far as when they should contact an attorney, I would say now for the estate planning part, because they need to start planning, because if something were to happen to them and the child inherits upon their 18th birthday, all this account and money they built up, the child will never get SSI or Medicaid unless they do that first party, which then is all going to have to go back to Medicaid. And then, of course, when they apply at 18, if the child is denied, you'd want to contact an attorney. Okay, hypothetical 3. In this one, Mr. and Mrs. Jones both work full time. They have more than one home, and they have a disabled child who is 18. What should they do? Well, here they should go ahead and apply for SSI, because remember, even if the child is living in the home at 18, that income and assets are no longer deemed to them. They need to ensure that once the child is getting SSI, that they keep the bank account under the $2,000 limit. Sometimes I see families are scared to use the money that they're getting from SSI because they feel like they need to save it, but you can't do that. So have the child use that SSI money they're getting. And then it would be the same things when to contact an attorney if that SS application is denied, or now if the parents do not have an estate plan or trust, because they need to make sure that child does not inherit two homes, because that would kick them off of benefits. And then the fourth hypothetical, and this one, Mr. Brown recently passed away. Mrs. Brown works full time. She has an unmarried 19-year-old disabled child on SSI. So what's the best plan for this family? She should contact Social Security and get them switched to that adult disabled child program, which is also the childhood disability beneficiary program, because now the child can draw off of the father's Social Security, and most likely it will be more money, and it would give them access to Medicare as well. And as far as when they should contact an attorney, if for some reason the Social Security denies the adult disabled child benefit, that shouldn't happen, but I randomly will get cases where they're on SSI, but they're telling them they're not disabled for the other program. And so sometimes we have to fight with them a little bit on that. And then Mrs. Brown should definitely have her estate plan re-looked at, because now her husband's passed away. And so it probably needs to change a little bit. And then our last hypothetical, the Johnson family, and this one, they own a business. And so they've actually been employing their disabled child for 5 years. But now they're going to sell the business, and the child is no longer going to be employed. So what should they do? On this one, they should actually apply for Social Security disability for the child once they're no longer employed, and SSI, because sometimes you'll get both programs. So if your Social Security disability benefit is under the SSI amount, SSI will come in and kick to at least get them to that $790. And so when should they contact an attorney? Same thing, if either program is denied. And also, if the parents don't have an estate plan or trust for the child, they need to ensure that the child will not inherit over the limit. Even let's just say the Social Security disability is all they're going to get because it's a big enough benefit. In the future, the child may need Medicaid for like a long-term care facility. So you still want to be planning, even though they're on Social Security disability.
Okay, last picture, Kennedy, had to throw that in there. She loves the beach and the water. So now we want some questions. I know that one has already been posted to the Zoom link. So Gidget, if there is a moderator, stop us. But we're going to go ahead and just open it up for questions, and you definitely ask us on the site. So Gidget, you want to read this question?
Yeah.
Okay.
So can only full USA citizens apply for these programs? So for Social Security disability, you can be a permanent resident or a citizen as long as you've worked and paid in enough. SSI is not that easy, and that's not a black and white answer. There are a lot of people who would not qualify for SSI. For example, even people who live in Puerto Rico can't get SSI. So it depends on where you're from and what your status is, because it's not a blanket answer, unfortunately. So if you're looking at SSI, I would need a little bit more, detail to know exactly. But sometimes, yes, people who are not full citizens can get SSI, but it is more limited than Social Security disability.
Okay, here's another question. Gidget will read it.
Okay, is there a way to get the full SSI for my son? He gets the lower amount now. He is 25. Yeah, first we'd have to know why he's getting the lower amount. The most common reason I see is because he's not paying rent. So if he's not paying rent, you need to do a lease agreement with him and then submit that to Social Security, showing that he does have to pay to raise it. Now, if there's some other income, we went over those slides, some other reason, like he has child support coming in, or there's something like that, I would need to know if there's other sorts of income, but most likely if he's not paying rent, that's what's causing it.
Any other questions?
So what I do is federal, so I can help.
Let me read the question.
Oh, sorry. Says, do you work with families in California? I can work with families anywhere because my laws, what I do is federal. I'll let Carly answer about the special needs plan.
Yeah. So what's great about Social Security too is that if Gidget does help you all, because of COVID, all of the hearings, right, as of right now, are online, and it's a faster process. So she can definitely help you. As far as me, California has way different laws than Texas, and that's where I'm licensed. But I can help you or point you in the right direction. And I'm definitely willing to do that at no cost. So definitely email me. I'll point you in the right direction. I'll give you some tips, and I can even help you find an attorney. So that's something that, I do want to donate my time and services for anyone joining in on this conference. Okay, here is another one. Okay, we opened an ABLE account in a pinch, so our son's savings account would not count against him for a waiver program. We were told that withdrawing that money out of the account to put into an S&T was not an approved expense. Is that true? That is a very good question. The qualified disability expense list does not list, pulling the money out into a special needs trust, but it does list that you can hire professional services. So I wonder if there's a way we can get around that. So, definitely whoever answered that question, email me, and I can help you out. I would also know, I would need to know that the specific ABLE account kind of program that you're doing or you're working with, in your state. Okay, here's another good question. Is it better to put room and board money we charge into the S&T or a bank account for flexibility? Better to put the room and board money we charge. Oh, for SSI?
So like the money,
Okay.
I think what they mean is like they're charging their child. What should they do with that money? What you do with that money is up to you.
Yeah.
So if you want to turn around and start funding a third party special needs trust, I would just be careful not to like make it so obvious. So maybe put it in a bank account, save up a few months, and then use that. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like I'm charging them through the dollars. It's going, because I feel like that looks a little sneaky. But I definitely, you could do that. You could do it either way, depending on your family situation. Okay. Our son turns 17 next month. How soon should we start the SS application process? Well, it depends. So if you do not meet the income and asset requirements as a family, you will have to wait until he turns 18. If you do, you could start it now, but he has to be 18 before they will not deem your income and assets to him.
It's a good question. We have a third-party special needs trust set up for our disabled 2-year-old. Yay! Yay for setting it up. That's why I was clapping. Do grandparents' wills need to name the will specifically to protect those funds? The grandparents' wills should be updated to name the third-party special needs trust. So the name of the third-party special needs trust, whatever you named it, should be incorporated into any will where a person wants to leave some of their estate to your child. It should not be left to your child. It should be left to the third-party special needs trust. That's a very simple amendment to do. So don't let an attorney charge you out the wazoo. It's a very simple amendment to do for any will that just needs to redirect a beneficiary into the name of the trust. Oh, okay. So here's a question about guardianship. Can you say something about adult siblings of adults with special needs getting guardianship? What exactly is guardianship, and does that require a lawyer as well?
I will say, first of all, guardianship is a state law, so it's going to depend on the state. I know in Texas, we have full guardianship and partial guardianship. I think you most likely would probably need a lawyer to get guardianship, because a lot of times it's a process, like you have to go get letters from doctors. And it depends on if the child is saying no, they don't need a guardian. So I would say, yes, you need an attorney, and it varies by state. Sorry, I know that's a really vague answer, but that's state law.
This is a good one. We have a savings account for our daughter under Cutma, and it's under our names. Is that okay, or should we remove her name and close that account? So that's a uniform, right? Minor? Yeah, it's a minor account. Yeah. So it sounds like, though, it would be under your daughter's name. I know you set it up for her, but any savings account that's in her name, I would close and to be safe, and get an ABLE account. That's another option. It's very similar to an UTMA. And start researching those different ABLE accounts so that you're comfortable with it, or set up a third party special needs trust and start saving, as much as you can for her now through that special needs trust. Okay, I feel like we're almost out of time and we have gone through all the questions, I believe. So we haven't seen any others come through, but thank you all so much for having us. Again, I'm a fellow special needs mom. I'm so sorry I couldn't be at the conference this year. I definitely plan on going in 2 years and hope to see everyone there too once COVID is fully behind us. Just have a wonderful rest of, your conference and your week. And, again, please reach out to us with any more questions. Our email is there. We're going to upload these slides and it'll all be in the app. And, again, thankful.
All right, thank you so much.
Yes.